Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Patrick. I am an author, reviewer, and public speaking coach. Today I'm going to be talking about James Bond, No Time to Die. If you'd like to see the rest of this video, please do check out the full video on my YouTube channel. So first off, I absolutely loved it. I definitely give it a 5 out of 5 stars. You really got to see a breakaway from the traditional Bond movie, in that we got a lot deeper human emotions from the characters, and that gave you a better backstory and understanding of how they got to the points that they were in, which is something that I always like. We also got to see some amazing locations from Italy and Norway and London and all those great places. So I definitely would say the cinematography and the direction with those elements was fantastic. Of course, Hans Zimmer is always a win because he is a great composer. And if you ever need some good motivational music, put Hans Zimmer on, and you'll definitely feel all the highs and lows you would during a movie. Of course, Bond has a lot of action. It has a lot of adventure and shooting and fighting and all those kind of things. So it definitely is a caveat to previous Bond movies in that sense. And of course, you got the overly dramatic villain, or the melodramatic villain, I guess you could say. And so that was nice to see coming back into those Bond movies. I will say that, again, seeing the human emotions come forth so much more in this movie made it so much better, because you really got to connect with those characters. And I think that Daniel Craig's Bond is such an improvement over some of Bond's in the past, because he is not so reliant on some of the slapstick comedy that some of the Bonds had in previous generations. So, and I liked the fact too that we don't get as much gadgetry. Bond is out basically with a gun, and he's the only, he's the one that's saving the world. So it harkened back to those elements really well. I would also say that I think they underused one of the characters, because her and Bond had a great dynamic and really played off each other and did give us some of those classic one-liners that we expect with Bond. So I think they could have used her a little bit further into the movie. Of course, there's beautiful cars, beautiful women, beautiful locations again. So it's really well put together with all of those elements, and it makes you really kind of honestly wish you could be Bond. And with any spy movie, you expect twists and turns and plots and things of that nature. So it's always great to see that come forth in Bond. And while you're expecting it, some of the twists and turns were definitely not what I was expecting. I would say, too, that you get such fan service, we'll go with that word, because of some of the scenes with Daniel Craig without a shirt. Just saying, he's looking pretty good for his age. I love, too, that with Daniel Craig's Bond, you really get a sense of continuous narrative. When you look back at some of the Bonds from the 80s and 90s and even earlier, you sometimes lose some of that continuosity, because those were like one-off stories, whereas Daniel Craig's Bond, it's all interlinked in how it's perceived. So I definitely think that the writers are focusing on telling a complete narrative with him, and that gives it a better excitement for the audience, because that makes it want to see what the next step is going to be. I would also say that I don't want to give anything away, but the one major twist at the end is going to be interesting to see what they do in the next film, because there's always going to be another Bond, or I should say another Bond movie. But what will happen is, what's going to happen, who's going to continue on. And I probably just gave something away, so I apologize if you haven't seen it. I do like the fact, too, that Ben Whishaw, who plays Q, actually was a queer represented character, because as a queer actor, I think Ben is always looking for those little moments where he can stick something in that is queer representation, and having, without being overly dramatic about it for the press releases and, queer baiting and things like that. It was a very one-off line, but it was very much a, hey, we know this person is gay. So that was a nice addition to see in the Bond movies. So yes, it'll definitely be interesting to see where they go with future Bond movies, and how they'll handle certain things that were brought up in this movie, and what they will do to continue the legacy. But I definitely would recommend seeing it. I mean, it's definitely a great epic adventure. If you grew up watching Bond, even if it was Pierce Brosnan or Sean Connery, seeing some of the elements that they brought to the Bond come through with Daniel Craig is always fun. And so it'll be interesting to continue and see what happens. But it's also great to feel the nostalgia of classic Bond versus classic villain, and where they go. So I definitely recommend this movie. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said video. But I definitely recommend this movie, especially on the big screen. I mean, it's so immersive with, again, the cinematography and the scenery and the sets and everything like that, and the music, and hearing all those, and having all of those elements play on top of each other. So I definitely recommend going to see it in the theater, and just enjoy it. Enjoy it for what it is, and don't get too upset when things might not go the way you want them to. So thank you very much for tuning in. Again, my name is Patrick. And if you like this video, please do like, comment, and share. That way I can continue to make videos going forward. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a good one.